Hello, are you ready to start talking about how to integrate the voices of others into your writing? If so, go ahead and either grab a piece of paper, a notebook, and something to write with, or pull up a Word document so you can type along, because with this particular screencast video, you will need to pause it and go do some work and come back and continue the video. So go ahead and get yourself set up, pause it if you need to, and then join me back here in just a second. All right, are you back? So let's think about our research question for this last unit in English 121. So have a good sense of what your research question is, and I want you to think about what you've been reading as you've been doing your research for the exploratory blog posts. And the first thing I'd like you to do is to write for a few minutes. So maybe set a timer for 2 or 3 minutes, and I want you to adopt the voice of someone who absolutely 100% wholeheartedly agrees with your perspective on your research question. So what does this person say? How does he or she say it? And I want you to write in first person. Really try to adopt their perspective on your issue. So this one shouldn't be too hard. Go ahead and take a few minutes to do that. Pause the video and come back when you're ready. Okay, are you back? So now on this same piece of paper, I'd like you to switch perspectives. I want you to adopt the voice of someone who absolutely 100% wholeheartedly and passionately disagrees with your perspective on your research question. What does this person say, and how does he or she say it? So I want you to take another few minutes and write in first person. So I believe, I think, I feel, about the perspective that is the exact opposite of yours. And of course, there are many perspectives on any issue. We're just playing around with black and white right now. So go ahead and pause the video and write for a few minutes and meet me back here. Okay, are you back? So what was that experience like? What was it like to write from the perspective of the opposition? Was it easy for you? Was it difficult? And most importantly, did this person that you were embodying for a few minutes sound reasonable and intelligent and well educated? Or did they sound kind of screechy and ridiculous and had really simplistic, maybe even dumb things to say? So, if your answer was more on the other end of the spectrum there, where your opposition really doesn't sound all that bright, it is very possible that you just don't know enough about this perspective yet to represent it fairly in your upcoming argumentative essay. So that's an important consideration. We want to make it a fair fight. So when we are looking for all of the many voices involved in the conversation around our particular research question or topic, we want to make sure that we are picking on people our own size. So just like you were finding lots of experts and smart, intelligent people to represent your side of the issue, you want to look at that whole circle, that 360-degree view of it, and make sure that you are finding equally qualified and competent folks to represent the other perspectives. So when we're working with our opposition in particular, those people who are really on the other side of an issue from us, our assignment guidelines remind us that it is important to have a convincing and credible argument, which means we have to acknowledge what our opposition might say about this topic. We have to accommodate them. We have to give them some space and maybe even say a couple things where we agree with them or can see their point of view. So that's providing some accommodation. And then you want to refute what it is they have to say. So this is not a knockdown, drag out fight. No one is yelling at anybody else. This is a respectful conversation. And you're just working with someone who is equally intelligent and smart and capable who happens to disagree with you. So how do we have that conversation? We've got a lot of voices to consider. So we have the people who support our issue, we have the naysayers or the opposition, we have those neutral, informative parties who are just providing information about the discussion, and we have the people who make it complicated and messy by adding in additional perspectives on the issue. And then of course you have your own perspective and ideas that you want to contribute. So how do we do that? Well, Gerald Graff and Kathy Birkenstein wrote a fantastic book called They Say, I Say, The Moves That Matter in Academic Writing. And if you have a couple bucks sometime and can find it used online or in a bookstore, I highly recommend it. So one of the things that Graff and Birkenstein recommend is that we practice using templates, because these conversations are easy to have in person, But when you're writing, it takes some practice and time to figure this out. So experienced writers use a variety of rhetorical strategies to have these conversations. And Graf and Birkenstein in their book have many, many templates that you can use until you get the hang of it. Here's an example of what a template looks like. In discussions of fill in the blank, a controversial issue is whether fill in the blank. While some argue that A, others contend that B. So let's fill that in. So let's say in discussions of child discipline, a controversial issue is whether or not you should spank your child. While some argue that this is a slippery slope to child abuse, others contend that spanking is a time-honored and effective child discipline method. So that's how the template works. It's kind of providing a variety of perspectives in a respectful way. So why use the templates? It really focuses your attention not on what is being said or the content, but how it is being said, the forms and structures. So as you use templates like this, you're really becoming more familiar with academic discourse, academic writing, rhetorical patterns. So how does it work? First, you have to actually listen to what everyone is saying. So whether they're on your side of the issue or your opposition, you have to listen closely to them, and you have to be able to summarize what it is they have to say in a fair and respectful way. It makes an enormous difference in an argument if the other side feels like you genuinely understand and respect their perspective. Then you want to look for an opening in this many-sided conversation you are having and respond. So now it's your turn. So I'm going to have you pause the video here while this is on the screen, and I want you to try out filling in the blanks yourself. So this says, when it comes to the topic of blank, and so this is where you would input your topic, most of us will readily agree what? So what is it that everyone agrees on about your topic? Where this agreement usually ends, however, is on the question of what, right? Whereas some are convinced that A, others maintain that B or C or D. I believe blank. So just to give you an example again, we'll go back to our child discipline topic. When it comes to the topic of child discipline, most of us will readily agree that parents should do something to address misbehavior. Where this agreement usually ends, however, is on the question of spanking. So you see how we've established that there is one thing that most people agree on. Where it gets sticky is where it gets more specific, and the topic of spanking. Whereas some are convinced that spanking is a slippery slope to abuse, others maintain that spanking is a time-honored and effective child discipline method. I believe that, and then you would insert your opinion. So go ahead and try that out. Let me know how it goes. We're going to actually jump over to the learning activity quiz about working with your opposition and use a lot of what you've just written in that learning activity quiz. So final thoughts, you want to make sure that when you are bringing in all those other voices, that particularly when you have a voice of opposition, you want to acknowledge that voice, summarize it accurately and fairly, accommodate them. So indicate where you all have some common ground and a shared understanding of the topic, and then refute what your opposition might say in a respectful conversation with those who disagree with you. So head on over to the learning activity quiz for this week for working with your opposition. Keep track of what you just wrote because you will need that for that learning activity quiz, and I'll see you there.